Hi, welcome back. The PasigoDesign Watercolor Studio, and we're continuing on with the study of landscapes, mainly skies and clouds. So number 2, if you missed this one, you can catch it on my channel as the first video of this series. And now I'm going to start with number 2, and I'm painting some water on my paper. Like I did in the last video, I'm going to wet the surface, but instead of using my reds and yellows for the sky, I'm going to use some of this Prussian, and I will also try to incorporate it with a little bit of the yellow. But in order to do that successfully, because if we just mix this with this, we're going to get a green, and I don't really want green in the sky. So before I bring in some of that yellow on the horizon line, I will have to add some red. So let's get started here with some of these cloud shapes. I'm just going in a different direction this time. And it's really just to add a little bit of an interest compared to this one. Something different. Now this, I'm taking the red and getting a purple. It's going to be interesting to see how this comes out. Okay, now what I want to do is take that yellow, bring it below here so that I don't get my green. And it's going to stop at the horizon line. Okay, and if I feel like I should have left a few more white areas in here, I can still lift some of that off with my paper towel. We don't need a lot more than that. Okay, and down here, if I feel like it's a little bit too yellow, I can start putting a little bit of that purple down here. Like we did on this one, I'm going to add to the horizon line anyways, so a lot of that yellow will get covered with a color that is going to go on the horizon. So the color I would use here, I think I'd like to make more of a mix between the red and the yellow with some blue. So more like a brown, a blue-brown. All right, let's just try this. Add a bit more of that blue in here. So you can see now what's happening is I'm creating a really good contrast here on the horizon line. And it's going to be the same little picture. I'm really just wanting to try a different combination of colors. But we can do something a little different at the front. And maybe we can even, as these start to dry, we can change those shapes a bit more. Or maybe make these trees bigger so that it doesn't seem like it's quite so far. Let's do that. And I'll carry that through to here, a little bit more red in here for the browns. Okay. And coming from here, I'm going to carry down some of that yellow, and I'll just bring it down over here, and maybe over here we're going to bring this right down to the foreground. All right. Now, I don't want to lose my horizon. I want to make sure that I keep a line here to separate the sky from the land, but I don't want to do too much over here in the middle. My trees are actually looking not too bad on this side, so maybe I'll put a bit more green on here. And then on this side, let's get some red in here. I'm really just mixing the same colors that I started with, and I'm looking for oranges, greens. I've got violet in here, so I'm mixing a lot of colors to basically to get different colors. Now maybe I'm getting a little too crazy with this because we have violet, yellow, blue, green. I'm about to put some orange. So that's where you have to stop and say, well, does that really add any value? Am I really doing anything that's going to help? I personally think no at this point. So what I could do is just add a little bit more ground effect here and maybe bring in some of the greens, but much darker. All right. That's going to be space for something else at the front. All right, so now I have a good contrast between the foreground and the background here. And like I said earlier, it's always nice to put some texture. This paper, as I said, is not rough. So the textures are really just the ones that you make with your brush. You're not going to get any of the paper texture, which would be really nice. Notice what's happening here. I have a hair from a brush in my design. It's very interesting, isn't it? So, and it's forming a shape around it. So at this point, I'll just leave it. And then once it's dry, we'll play with that. Maybe we'll put another tree there or something. No big deal. The brown here is mixing in with the green. And I'm going to leave it like that because then I can separate the two once it's dry. But all that I've done here is mingled colors on paper. That's it. And then we'll come back and check it out after it's dry. Okay, this is dry. And I'm going to do some little shapes on top of my background now. I see what happened with the hair here. It's created a line, which is interesting, and some cauliflower flowering over here. That's fine. Here also I see the way that it dried, it created some lines here, which is interesting. And also I almost myself see some shapes that I could actually use in my foreground. To me, they look like rocks already. I won't have to do much to make them look like anything other than that. So let's get started. I'm going to take the blue, my blue, the red that I had, and the colors that I had here. And I'm going to paint, there's a couple of things that I can do. I also see that I have the shape of a tree forming in here. So let's give that a try first. Got a tree here that I feel like I see just beyond the rocks. And let's just put that on top. Now, these trees, they don't have to be perfect, and they don't have to have beautiful foliage and leaf shapes that make, that look like fall time or beautiful. Like we don't have to change the colors. They could just be a little bit of brushwork that we put on here to give the illusion of that tree here. The color is the red and the blue. I'll pull some more of that in a little thicker. Not too much, but I just want to be able to hide maybe that line here a bit more. Okay. And this beyond here is the separation into the forest. So I'm just putting a few little bushes behind the tree. These little, we can take advantage of those rocks if we want to, but it doesn't really matter whether we have that here now. Let's see what it looks like when it's done, because this is not a painting of precision. This is an effect. We're just looking to convey an idea of space. And okay. So I'm just basically putting some contrasting colors here in the foreground to make it look like a little scene of ruggedness. Okay. Now here, it's going really nicely into the center. So I'm just going to carry that in there. And I'll just add a little bit more here as well to balance both sides. Shrubs. And maybe re-emphasize the line here. A little bit of color. Okay. The purple is coming out nicely. I'll add a bit more. And I'll also add a bit more contrast to the tree. There we go. All right. That's about all we can do here in this little space that we have to give the illusion of depth going into space and to create an effect, a beautiful soft effect of the sky. We really wanted that sky to come out nice and bright, but not overdone, and I think that looks pretty good actually. I like the colors, how they blended. And then the foreground just gives us something to look at that's closer to us. I think I'll stop right here. I'll look at it again later if I feel like it needs a little bit more. I may touch it up somewhere, but most likely not. As I said before, this is a study, and we have our second study completed now. So, all right. Thanks for watching.